Welcome back to another video. My name is Henrik and today we're going to be looking at the new Kia Picanto. We're going to look at everything this car offers and also take for a test drive. So make sure to stay tuned and we'll take a look at all of it. In here we have the Spirit Special Edition for the launch. At the launch you get two special editions, one in the Spirit and also one in the GT line. With that you get a different color in the inside, you get different rims and also a couple of other differences. We're going to look at everything. So first of all, let's start off with the front. You can see we have the light bar in here, which is kind of like an EV9, so the small brother of the EV9. That's how this car looks from the front in my opinion, and also kind of like the new Kia Sorento. So these are kind of the new designs, the Kia opposite United design. Down here we also have a different design, which is the Tiger Nose grille. So a very completely a new changing design in the front in my opinion now. Looks very sporty and very nice. With the GT line you theoretically would also get a light bar that goes all the way through here. Looks pretty good as a daytime running light. Down here, covered basically on the side, just in the center you have a little bit of intakes. And that is basically it for the front. The car is also going to start at 16,690 euros, so quite a cheap one. You will also get other options, for instance the one we have here, that's going to cost you around 20,670 euros, around 480 euros extra than the normal Spirit version. So you have the choice between the 7 edition, which is the lowest, the Vision, the Spirit GT line, so quite a different amount of variants that you can get, and also those two special editions. Ground clearance of 14.1 centimeters. The car has increased by 1 centimeter in length, so 3 meters and 60 long now. 1 meter and 48 tall and 1 meter and 59.5 wide. So a fairly compact car, A segment, so the smallest that you can get. Competitors, Hyundai i10, you got a Toyota Aygo X, you also have a Fiat 500. For the rims, you also have the choice between 14, 15 and 16-inch rims. On here we have the biggest one with these 16-inch rims. You do also have a 35-liter fuel tank up here, which is fairly low in my opinion, fairly low to the ground. And also the car size, or the car color now, is going to increase by 3. You have a blue one, you have a green one, and also a beige one. In the back, you can tell it looks fairly similar to the front, especially with the light bar up here going down on the side. It looks very much like on the front, which looks pretty good with the whole bath going through. The new Kia logo down here, Picanto, and a little bit of a different diffuser. If you, for instance, get the GT line, you get a very aggressive looking diffuser down here, which actually looks pretty cool. Up here, we also have our trunk, which is going to allow you to store 255 liters up to 1,010. If you flip over the back seats, close over that, you can put a couple of suitcases in there, and also a little bit more storage space down here if that's what you want. So a fairly big one for the segment, actually the biggest one compared to its competitors. And obviously you can flip them over, and like I said, the GT line from the back looks pretty cool in my opinion. In the back you can notice now the interior that I said is special with this model. You get this adventure green color in the interior, which in my opinion isn't the greatest color, but you get it if you choose this option. The seat in front of me is adjusted to my liking, and well, I don't have much room in here, but the seats are fairly squishy, so I can put them in there. So if you're around 1.85 m or 6'1", I think you should be at the maximum. I'm 1.80 m, so around 6 foot or 5'11", and I can just about comfortably sit here. Even could this do for a longer journey. The footroom is also quite good enough. You really don't have a big center tunnel in there, so not much going on down there. USB-C in there, and also headroom is quite good enough. I got around this much of headroom, that's around, I don't know, 4 or 5 centimeters. And you also have a great roof in there. You can not flip over anything in the center here, but you can obviously flip over the back seats. And you can see the green continues into the front with the seats and also the accents around the air vents and also down by the gearbox. You do get heated seats and also heated steering wheel in here, which is nice. Typical Kia steering wheel with all the different buttons on there. It feels fairly decent in your hand, with also this fake leather as well. You do get a manual gearbox, not a manual gearbox, but a manual handbrake and a manual gearbox theoretically. Now standard-wise also comes manual climate control and also an 8-inch infotainment display with Apple CarPlay, Android wireless via USB-C. Quality-wise, obviously, as you expect from this segment, a lot of plastic, but the steering wheel feels nice. This feels nice. Everywhere you touch is fairly decent, where you usually have your hand. But then obviously down here, plastic, plastic, plastic. Up here, a little bit more plastic. But still, for the price segment, I think that is fairly decent and something you definitely expect at this price. Join me now as we drive this Kia Picanto. The first thing you might notice is that we do have the manual gearbox in here, so you can choose between a manual and an automatic manual transmission. which is also an interesting thing by itself. But I'm not the greatest at driving a manual, so please excuse my lack of proficiency when driving a manual gearbox, but that's just how it is. We have the option between that manual and the automatic for each of the variants. The variants are going to be a 1-liter 3-cylinder engine and also a 1.2-liter 4-cylinder engine, the one we have here, with 79 horsepower and 113 Newton meters of torque. One thing that's a little bit interesting about that is, well, that Newton meter is only available at quite a high RPM, so 4,200 for the 113 Newton meters, and also for the 79 horsepower at 6,000 RPMs. If you get the lower one, 5,000 RPMs for your complete horsepower, which is quite late, and you definitely notice that in this car. That means that this car is going to be, well, not the quickest off the line, especially when you're trying to accelerate or trying to overtake somebody. You're going to have to shift down to actually be at that high RPM to allow you to do that overpass, overtake. And the other thing, if you, for instance, get the automatic gearbox, you'll definitely notice that it's not the quickest gearbox, due to the fact that it's the automatic on top of a manual transmission, and it takes around 3 seconds extra for it to accelerate at those speeds. So the 0 to 100 is around 3 seconds slower on the automatic transmission compared to the manual transmission, which again is not too great, but obviously a little bit more comfortable in the city if you want to opt for automatic. Even though the manual transmission, even though I'm not the greatest manual transmission guy, this actually drives fairly okay, in my opinion. The gears go in there fairly easily and allows you to just smoothly put them in there. And this car is obviously a car that maybe you get as your first car, maybe a car that you just want to use in the city, and therefore I think it is fairly decent with this manual gearbox, and I might actually prefer it over the automatic because it is just a little bit more fuel efficient as well, and also just okay to use. It's fairly comfortable. One thing that is a little bit interesting the first time you get into this car is the digital cockpit. Kia is kind of known for the intuitive and just easy to use, but the first time I stepped into here, you can see on the right side we have our RPMs, but there's no line, so it doesn't show you, okay, what is the max RPM when I can shift up to. So the red line is 6,500. I know that because I've tested it, but otherwise I wouldn't know how far I can shift this up. It does show you a red line at 6,500, but it's just a little bit interesting that you can't change the way of the layout of the cockpit to show you when the red line is. You also have, the other thing is cruise control. You do have it on here, you can set it. If I go down here, and now it is set. But if you look in the digital cockpit, it doesn't actually show me what I've set it to. So I know I've set it to 82 because the car doesn't accelerate. If I put it up now, I don't know what I put it up to, because it doesn't show me anywhere until I've actually felt that the car is now maxed out at that speed, so 86. So if the sign says 100 and I want to shift up to that, well, I'm gonna have to guess how fast how many times I have to press it up. It would have been nice if there would have just been a little small indication of what the actual speed currently is at. That is just my opinion. The top speed of this is also around 153 with the 1.2 liter engine, which is okay. I mean, you're probably not going to go much faster because you're not going to take this over long journeys. Talking about long journeys, we do have a 35-liter fuel tank in here, which allows you to go up to around 500 kilometers. If we look at our current consumption, in total since last time it was fueled, 281 kilometers, 6.2 liters. We can go down here and we can see, since, actually if we go up, since we've been driving this now for, well, since I started, exactly the same, 6.2 liters. You were driving earlier for around 40 kilometers, he got a consumption of around 5.7. So that would mean around 500 kilometers of range that you can get with this car, which is fairly decent, especially if you're in the city. I don't know what exactly the consumption is there, but I'd say around 6, maybe 7 liters. Obviously city driving is always a little bit more. But I think that is still a fairly decent value, so you're getting around, what, 400 kilometers, 450, somewhere right around there in my opinion. You do also have a little bit of travel assist, even though it is not the best in my opinion, but you do have it and you wouldn't expect it in this car, so you can theoretically take your hands off at occasions. If you're going on a straight road or even in corners, you can take it off time to time. We do have a manual climate control down here, which is also nice. You use USB-C, and let's also quickly take a look at the infotainment display. The navigation works fairly nicely. You do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in here. If you go into Media, you can see Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Unlike, for instance, a couple of new cars that have now come out from Kia, you are not going to have wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto in here, so you're gonna have to connect it via the USB-C down there. And turning radius of this car is also very low with 9.4 meters. That's kind of what you expect from this car. I think the Dacia Spring was exactly the same size of the turning radius, on 9.4 meters. Very nice if you're driving in the city. And one thing I've also noticed is that the view around here is very good. You have very big side windows, in my opinion. Those are some massive windows, and with that, that's going to allow you to just have a very good peripheral view. The window out the back is also fairly wide, and just like I said, these windows are just massive in my opinion. If you put them down, look at how far I have to stretch my arm to actually go all the way to the front. They just go really far into the board in the front. Looks fairly decent in my opinion. I do like the fact that we have the digital cockpit in here and all the other bits and pieces, for instance wireless charging down there. Just a fairly decent setup in the interior compared to, for instance, oops, that was the wrong gear, sorry. If you compare it to, for instance, the Mitsubishi Space Star, that's a little bit of a older car, I'd say. In there, the quality is the bare minimum, but you're also paying 5,000 euros less. Yeah. But if you compare this to some other cars, for instance, Hyundai i10, you got a Fiat 500. This definitely keeps right up there with the interior, and I'd say in a couple of them also better. I really do like the interior in here. So what is my final verdict on the updated Kia Picanto? Design-wise, I think they have done a very good job, and especially looking more to a younger audience and just looking more aggressive and good in my opinion. Lots of safety features. Interior has also been updated quite nicely. The only thing that I would theoretically change is the digital cockpit, where you can't see how fast you're going when a cruise control, and also the layout. Maybe a change that you can change the layout in general. The engine here is also, well, it's not the greatest, because at 6,000 RPMs getting the max amount of, torque, and also, not torque, but your total horsepower and torque at 4,200 is quite high, and therefore it just feels a little bit under, it just doesn't have much power for my personal taste in this car. It just doesn't feel like it has a total of 79 horsepower, and with the car only weighing just around a ton, I kind of expect a little bit more punch from it, but it certainly doesn't have that in my opinion. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.